Hard to start.
Very reliable.
Yeah.
They left it open, they didn't break it.
Yeah, so we took my, I'm like, I don't trust my son. I took his, we have a garage. I took his remote. Like, your car's outside. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's exciting. Don't hold me back. Yeah, really doesn't do all that much.
Which township is against it always because they're going to obey them their schools and they put the schools in their neighborhoods that have.
Because all we do
This carpet only, I had to get out and walk. Okay. Right. I made sure that. Where else? Oh, yeah, yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order Thursday, June 20th, 2019, Board of Education regular meeting of Lincoln Way Community High School, District 210. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And in President Costick's absence, I will be serving as President Pro Tem tonight.
In President Costick's absence, I'll be serving as President Pro Tem this evening. My name is Aaron J. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Janet.
Here.
Miss Janice Doyle.
Here.
Mr. Kirking.
Here.
Mr. Lucine. Mr. Lucetti.
Here.
Mr. Wilks.
Here.
Mr. Costick.
All right. Thank you. First order on the agenda is public comment. We have one individual signed up, Steve Reed.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Steve Reed, and I'm here to address very quickly the issue that's going on now with Ridge Township School District 227 and Lincoln Way North. It appears that there's been interest in Lincoln Way North by Ridge 227, and according to what I've understood from my neighbors, they've been in contact with the board, with you folks, and there's been no offer made, so there's been no public discussion of this. There's no reason to discuss anything that has been laid on the table, and I understand that. When we talk to our neighbors in the Ridge Central School District, and when we look at people that have gone to those meetings, they're moving forward with at least a plan. I think you know that. Doing robocalls to their neighbors, they're sending out mailers, they're discussing options for things that they are going to lay on the table for you. The reason that they want to do this, we all know, is that they need a new place to send the kids to school. They're going to close Ridge East. They're financially unstable. Their buildings are uninhabitable. They're being closed because they're not maintained. I'm asking you to consider this fact when you consider any option that they put on the table before you. One of their options is lease to own. If they lease to own that building, there's no reason why they wouldn't default on that. If they haven't maintained the buildings, they've been able to maintain the buildings in the past, we have no reason to believe that they would maintain the building and give it and be good on the lease going forward in the future. That's a school district that is going down financially. This is a school district that has begun to go back up, get onto its feet. I believe that would be a mistake. Conversely, I was at the meeting in District 161 where they just approved the money to be released for a feasibility study to take over that school. I live right down the street from it, so I'm involved in this quite a bit. When you consider the two options, now right now 161 is out of the picture. They're only going to do a feasibility study, but I'm asking you to give it time to be done because you have a school district that's been financially responsible. They have pretty much nothing to gain by taking on that school. That's a problem, okay? A school that's more work. Their schools are going fine just now. The kids are doing fine. They're looking to take that school and possibly turn it into a K-12 district and solve the problem for everybody. They've been financially responsible. Their schools are in good shape. They do everything that they're supposed to do. The neighborhood is very happy with them, and the kids are doing very well. When I was at that meeting, Board Member Joy Murphy, when they were discussing some of the issues with this, whether or not they were going to approve this, said that they spoke to Dr. Tingley here, and what he said was, don't bother with this because the people on the west side aren't going to vote for this. That came from her, not me. What I would like to say is, first off, this is a feasibility study, so if you don't support the idea that this school might be taken over, there's a million ways that this can still go south. You can still not have that happen. Feasibility study is only information, but this information is done by people who are interested in doing it, who have something to gain by it, who have a history of responsibility, and if you think that the people on the west side of this district won't vote for it, let this study go through and give us the chance to decide it, because if it's a possibility, that would mean there would be tax relief and neighborhood stability for everybody. Just because you don't live close to the school doesn't mean not affected by the school and the tax base. So I'm asking you, please, before you consider Ridge Township, and I don't, like I said, I don't know what they're going to put in front of you. They might not come up with anything good, but please give it time to let the study go through and let somebody who's interested in being responsible to not only the students but their families and maybe everybody in this whole school district gives a better chance for a better deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple things, Mr. Reed.
you know, in terms of the discussion, I did speak with one of your board members in terms of don't bother. That was never part of the discussion. The facts were part of the discussion, and my quote was, you have to realize both sides would have to pass a referendum. That would be one of the hurdles. Now, since this time, our assistant superintendent has spoken with the gentleman who's going to do the feasibility study. We've agreed to provide any and all information that he needs to get this completed in an expedited manner. I've spoken with Superintendent Raines, in fact, just as recent as 2 hours ago, to see what they would need from us and help. I understand the demographic study is moving forward. We're going to see if we can partner to help reduce some of that cost, because in my discussions with other area superintendents, they were also looking at demographics. So that we will do what we can to support your study. In terms of the Ridge Township, there's not an option unless there's an option presented, and there has been options developed by District 227 to address the facility challenges. You are correct. The acquisition of North is one of several options that they are considering. If an option is presented, which means terms, conditions, purchase price, then that will be presented to the board for consideration. Nothing more, nothing less. Once any option were presented, the first step would be a presentation to the board. If the board gave the administration direction, find out if that's feasible, meaning bonds, meaning financial analysis, meaning benefit analysis, that would be done and provided back to the board for that decision to be made. There's been several entities that have expressed interest in that facility over the past 16 months. There have not been any options presented to the district for consideration, and that continues to be the case. We'll continue to listen when people want to see the building for a potential purchase or use. We're open. We had discussions with Chicago State. It didn't work. There were some private entities that there was some interest. It didn't work. If there were ever any options to explore financial, otherwise usage, they would be brought back to the board for consideration. Does the board have any questions or any thoughts?
Not at this time. All right, moving on, we'll have our curriculum and instruction update.
Well, good evening. Tonight's curriculum and instruction update focuses on professional development. Summer is always an excellent time to provide and offer professional development opportunities for our teachers and staff. As you can see here and in your documents online, this summer we offered several in-house workshops, and with the exception of one, all were presented by teachers and leaders within our district. We offered several workshops with a social-emotional focus, several more with an emphasis on interventions for struggling or outlying students, and several technology workshops. We also offered summer school training prior to the start of summer school. By the numbers, 14 different in-house workshops were planned and presented by 36 different teacher leader teams with 15 hours of technology, 15 hours of social emotional learning, and 17 hours of intervention training. Anywhere from 20 to 40 teachers were at each workshop, with accumulating over 1,000 hours of in-house summer PD by Lincoln Way teachers just this summer. We also used this summer to train all of our deans and several teachers in nonviolent crisis intervention by CPI, the Crisis Prevention Institute. Our in-house trainers provided strategies for de-escalation, safety, and crisis prevention. We also trained 4 additional deans as trainers for us to use for future workshops during the school year. In addition to these in-house workshops, summer is also an opportune time to attend outside organization conferences as well. As you can see here, these are just a sampling of the various conferences and workshops being attended this summer by our teachers and staff, including NAP Summer Institutes, the Chem Ed Conference, and even a training in using data in physical education. In addition to professional development workshops and conferences, summer is also an excellent opportunity for teachers and department chairs to get together by course group to develop and revise curriculum. As you can see here, numerous course groups from nearly every department chose to work together to revise and develop curriculum for this upcoming school year. The last piece of professional development I'd like to share with you are the results of our professional development needs assessment survey, providing us with direction for the next school year. Under instruction, teachers share that they would like to continue professional development related to instructional technology and the sharing of instructional ideas, particularly in the area of Microsoft Office 365. Under curriculum, teachers are looking to integrate career connections into their curriculum, as well as ways to embed SAT prep. So with this valuable feedback in mind, we are prepared to roll out our professional development plan for the next school year, starting with morning sessions devoted to instructional strategy sharing, including ways to incorporate career connections, and SAT prep, and instructional technology, including Office 365, will be addressed during our Lunch and Learns, our most highly attended professional development opportunity during the school year. So for the 2019-2020 school year, we look forward to our 4 major areas of professional development, including instructional technology, college and career connections, curriculum embedded SAT prep, and of course, the continuation of social emotional learning.
Amy's done a really good job keeping our teachers engaged in the summer. I'm always amazed at how many teachers attend. And one of the focuses here over the last 2 or 3 years has been to have our teachers, have our staff be the presenters. That's led to tremendous buy-in from the staff. So excellent job there. And it's been good to see the teachers in here the last several weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the consent agenda. We can take these all at once or break them out individually if anybody would like. If I can get a motion for the consent agenda then. So moved.
Second, sorry.
Please call the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Karen, before we move on, Scott, I just have a really silly logistical question. We have out-of-state travel on. Why is it out of state versus, like, some of these are just over the border in Indiana or just over the border in Wisconsin? But if they go down to Carbondale, it wouldn't count.
Well,
It's still in there, but upstate, didn't we have Illinois one in there?
yes, we could have Illinois.
Right.
If it's an IHSA, we don't do an out-of-state. So if we're going to Carbondale for a cross-country sectional that we qualify for, we wouldn't put it in here. But if it's summer travel, we typically include all summer travel outside. And because it's not an IHSA Monmouth College, we went ahead and put that in.
Okay, but is there some like requirement that it's out of state, or is it like a?
It's a 150-mile radius, but we,
That's all
in
you
order,
need?
yeah, we put everything in.
Safe and sound, okay,
Yeah.
that's all I need, thank you.
All right, next up is the presentation of invoices for May 17th, 2019 through June 20th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $1,700,460.44 dated June 20th, 2019.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, just now, so we're splitting the invoices in 2 here, I see. This is because we're not having a July meeting.
Kelly?
So this month, we prepared 2 listing of invoices. The one that you're approving right now is our typical invoice listing. These are all FY19 expenses. We'll be cutting those checks, or actually the checks will be, were cut today, they'll be sent tomorrow upon approval. We prepared a second listing this month, since there is no July board meeting, but there are expenditures for FY20 that we have to pay in July, such as our bus leases, our insurance, our liability insurance renewal. We already have those invoices, so we included them in a separate listing so that the board could see them in advance of us paying them in July instead of after the fact at our next board meeting in August. So that's why there are 2 separate listings this month.
And the invoices have been received. Very good.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, next up, we have the presentation of current fiscal year 20 invoices. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $1,673,202.50 dated July of 2019.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Brad, I have a question. That figure that Chris just read, that's all in line with our budgeted amounts?
Yes.
Yeah.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, we now have the treasurer's report for May 2019. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Not all at once, please. All right, any questions? Brad, why don't you take it away?
Thank you. For May 31st, 2019, the district collected $7.8 million and we expended $6.5 million, resulting in a cash balance of $6.1 million, ending the month with a negative all funds fund balance of just over $9 million. Revenue collection was below where we expected. We knew we would have a lower May tax collection than last year because of the federal tax change last year. We had, I would say, a super May collection, but this year's May collection was a little lower than expected. However, we expect to collect all of the taxes that we expect to be due between now and June 30th. As far as expenditures go, expenditures are trending right in there. We're looking good. We believe we'll be under budget in salaries. The biggest area is transportation, where we had many open positions due to the lack of qualified candidates. So we'll be under there. But the rest of the budget is looking in line. So we should end the year very strong. Revenue is up and looking good.
All right, any questions for Brad?
Are you going to talk about the budget stuff next?
Sure.
Or well, I was just wondering, are we separating those out?
No, I think it's all part of the report, so I think we would need to cover everything before we go to a vote, if that's what you're asking.
All right. Okay, also then included in this month, so we have our normal treasurer's report, but also included are two supplemental documents. We put them in under this item. First would be just a summary of FY 2020 budget, where we're at to date with that. Revenue is looking strong. We already know our CPI for 2019 tax levy, so that's all been calculated. It's based on the normal 51-49 split for taxes. We're using at this moment in time for evidence-based funding, we're using the actual amount that was allocated to us for actually this fiscal year. Indication are is that's once they finish divvying that out, we might receive a little more, but we definitely are not going to be below this year's funding. Interest income is up substantially. That's due to rate increase in investment returns. So all in all, revenue is looking very strong, and we anticipate for all funds receiving about $8.6 million in revenue more than the actual budget. As far as expenditures go, we've working through, and I guess I should have started with saying this. This is the summary budget of where we're at today. We're still fine tuning and getting everything in. There will be minor changes between this document and where our actual first presentation of the budget in August, because we will have more known numbers by then and we will make any final adjustments. However, with that being said, expenditures are coming in where we are anticipating. And so I know we talked to the board last time, we thought we're going to need to cut about $1.3 million to make sure we have that 3% operating reserve. And now we're estimating that we'll need to cut about 800,000. And the major way that will be done is through that one-time holiday of the benefit payment, because we do have excess money in that fund now. So with that, we'll come in, right now, we're estimating about 3.27%. We'll make sure we're well over that 3%, give ourselves a little cushion, and continuing to return those fund balances to the level they need to be. That's a quick summary on that. The other document then that is included in there is the FY 2020 cash flow. FY 2020 cash flow is based solely on the estimated budget summary I just went over. So we have in there what we expect to finish collecting in the different tax years, plus the flow of revenue. That flow of revenue and expenditures are allocated or spread, if you will, based on this year's actual collection numbers. So like if, for example, in last year of September, we collected 1.25% of admissions, well, we expect to collect the same 1.25. So that's how this works. And same way with expenditures. You'll notice on the cash flow, it's very easy, well, easy, an overstatement, but the salaries and benefits really flow year to year pretty close. So you'll notice as you look at the variances we have month to month, typically it's not so much in salaries and benefits. Those flow pretty even year to year. Where we have our variances, of course, is in supplies and repairs and maintenance to buildings, and those kind of bounce around. Kind of hard, a little harder to nail those down. But based on how things came in this year, I use those same percentages and use those to put these expenditures in the same, if you will, pay slots or accounts payable, etc. All that being said, the good news is, if you go to the very last page of the report, we're estimating that we'll need about $13.3 million for TAWs next year. Now, in some districts, that would be like crushing news. For our district, this is great news. We were almost 30 million a few years ago, and now we're moving towards, only needing 13.3. So things are looking great.
This year?
This year we were 17 million. So.
And the other big thing is, according to the cash flow summary, we pay it all back before the end of the fiscal year.
Right, which is another huge step in the right direction.
Just going forward, I like the budget adjustment. Can we track what we're putting back in from that 1.3? I know, I remember technology. I can't remember what else we were talking about.
Principal's budget was about 10%, so yeah, we wouldn't get that too, Chris.
And then the recurring plus the one. So recurring, is that, you're expecting that to go on forever? Recurring plus one is just the next 2 fiscal years?
Yeah, it's going to be 20 and 21.
And most of going from 1.3 to 800,000, it looks like most of it is in this PRT.
So
that's up 20% in investment income. So most of it's in the revenue side.
And we were able to, and that's what I say, we'll have to have some final tweaking, but based on our contracts, based on where we expect extra hours and overtime, et cetera, we are expecting salaries and benefits to be a little bit lower.
And the reductions here, the R+1s, the recurrings that are in the benefits, which is the health insurance premium, is that planned for the same amount both fiscal years, or is it declining the following year? So it's, what's 600,000 this year?
Well, overall, it's 800,000. We're expecting to take the same 800,000 in 2021.
Did you say that
On the
again?
health insurance?
So there'd be 2 holidays or just 1?
Well, one in 20 and one in 21.
So a total of 1.6 then?
And I misspoke, it's 600, you're absolutely right, it's 600.
200,000 of it is the employee's contribution, so 600,000 is the board check.
Right, but we
Oh,
still
so
have
the-
some other
okay.
things in
Yeah,
there.
the total check's 800,000, 600 of it is the board check.
Any other questions for Brad?
Have you started your TAWS conversations yet for 2020?
No, and if you look at the cash flow, we're going to be certainly a ways out. Looks like we may go clear to February. So I was waiting until we have our possible bond rating. We're expecting to be in front of Moody's in October. And I think that would be good to have that rating update from Moody's before we actually start talking about the TAWS with the different banks.
Are we going back to a normal time frame for the levy then?
Yes, I thought if you look at the budget calendar, we're going to be moving things back a little. So I don't have that right in front of me, but I believe I said we'd go ahead and do the levy in October or November, I can't remember. But we're not going to go as far as December, I don't believe, because we do need to be lining up, you know. But we definitely won't be doing the tax levy at the same meeting we've been doing the budget.
When was our first draw this year?
Uh,
Do you remember?
yeah, well, I could look at it.
Is it in there?
Yes, it is, sorry.
November.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think we're not anticipated to have to draw until February, yes.
My only concern would be that if there was anything in the revenue side that got stymied, that would accelerate that we just were prepared for it, that's all.
Right.
I mean, I know most of it's governmental and we're kind of getting used to Springfield being at least a little more predictable. But we've also seen when something happens and it stops, we still don't have the right resources.
Right.
Sorry, I did have one more, sorry. You gave earlier, you broke out the all funds, what you expected the surplus to be, and then the 3% for, or 3.27% for the operating funds. And it was a high number, it was like $6 million in the all funds. It looks to me like that's a lot of that's in debt service. Is that a timing issue on the bond? Is that, okay.
So here's how that works. So with, when you're coming into a period of increasing debt service payments, because you levy in advance for those debt service payments, you will have a surplus. If you're in a period of declining debt service payments, you will be running deficits during those times because you'll be burning down some of that excess you built up. So as we ramp up with our debt service, you will see as we move up on our debt service, you will see us running a surplus in the debt service fund to because we're levying in advance for that payment that's coming up.
Any other questions for Brad? Hearing none, can you call the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, next up, we have the student activities report for May 2019. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah.
So explain to me just for a second what we're doing with the class out funds, just to make sure I'm clear.
Kelly, give us
Kelly, I'm sorry.
Kelly did the legwork on this one. Go ahead, Kelly.
So as you know, we've been talking about this off and on for the past couple of years, and I believe earlier this year, Mr. Kirkine, you brought up the fact that just wanted to know an update on it, and we said that we would have an update by the end of the year with what we were planning on doing. We do have board policy 490 that states the following: an account containing student activity funds that is inactive for 12 consecutive months shall be closed and its funds transferred to another student activity fund or authorized fund with a similar purpose. For the new board members, to give you a little bit of history, we have, and you may see on the accounts that we give you, the reports that we give you every month, that we have many class of accounts going all the way back to 1964 that have balances. And it's my understanding, that was past practice, to hold those accounts open essentially for those classes to be able to use for future reunion expenses. So what would happen is a class representative would call up, they would say, how much is in my account? We have a reunion coming up. They would set up a bank account that said class of 1975 or whatever the case may be. We would cut a check to them. We basically decided that it's not good practice to be the bank for the class of accounts, and since policy states that student activity funds that are inactive for 12 consecutive months can be closed, we've decided to repurpose those funds to basically help the district maintain the class of gifts, which they help to fundraise for. So classes typically fundraise to help offset costs like prom, and then also to purchase a class of gift upon graduation. But like I said, once they leave and the gift is installed, many of these things need to be repaired or replaced or require maintenance off and on periodically. So we thought that it would make the most sense to create a separate student activity account for which we would transfer all of these class of accounts across all 4 schools, have some remaining balances that have not had activity for at least 12 months. And we would hold that balance in the that new student activity account, which is on the last page of the memo that we're asking you to approve tonight. We would hold it in there, and then annually, Mr. Wilkie would do an assessment of any repairs and maintenance to those gifts that would be needed, and we would transfer the required balance to Fund 20 to essentially fund those expenses. We thought about transferring it all to Fund 20 this year, July 1st, but then that doesn't really help. That just increases the balance for 1 year, and that doesn't really help going forward. We did some research on this. We contacted other districts to see what their policies and procedures are requiring with these inactive student activity accounts. There's a lot of gray with this, I think, but pretty consistently they came back and said that they close out the accounts after a certain period of time, and they transfer the balances to wherever they have decided to transfer the balances. Some transferred them to the ed fund, some kept them within the student activity account. So it kind of all varied with the responses we got back, but very consistently they said that they did not leave these accounts open to be used for future reunion expenses. Just one last thing I wanted to mention that, I think going forward, our class of sponsors will be letting our class of officers know, and it'll be communicated that they won't be able to have these funds upon graduation. So hopefully there won't be large balances built up upon their graduation if they know that they're not going to be able to call up 10 years from now and use those funds for their reunion.
Would they then be able to use whatever money's left over to, like you said, offset the cost of prom tickets or things like that?
Right, they could choose to use it that way.
This seems like a pretty reasonable approach to me, class of gifts, so. It's 96, you said $96,000?
Yes,
right
it's
now?
approximately 96,000 of, I started with a class of 2017 and then went backwards, all the way back to 1964.
taking them out, you're gonna aggregate them into one student activities, and then as the repairs are needed on an annual basis, we delegate. The only one question, is there gonna be any form of outreach to these class of accounts?
Well, that was the first thing.
One last chance to.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that, that I did. I tried to find out if we have an alumni list, and we do. But the issue with that is we don't know who the officers are, who would be responsible for it, and I just think that that opens some issues if we start contacting them and offering people money. Who may not.
Hey, you want some money?
Yeah. Who may
Chris,
not
you
have
want
any.
You guys have any money? Thank you, well done.
Any other questions? Can you call the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, next up, we have the personnel report, employment. Mr. Schiffauer?
All right, under employment, we have Megan Castro Giovanni, family and consumer science teacher, Cheyenne Fry, bus driver, Deborah LaFair, food service, Jennifer Nolte, food service, Heather Reyes, food service, Angela Sivak, one-on-one nurse, and Lynn Waller, food service. I ask the board to approve the employment report as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Please call the vote. Or are there any questions, I should say?
The vote is open.
All right, next up, we have personnel report, retirements.
Under retirements, we have Louis Moisen, bus driver, requesting to retire under the IMRF retirement system. I ask the board to approve this retirement as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions?
The vote is open. Now it's open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, next up, we have the personnel reports, resignations, leaves, and other.
All right, under resignations, we have Dan Scadley, maintenance, Patrick Shaughnessy, head boys water polo coach, Kendra Will, head girls water polo coach. And then under leaves, we have Alexandria Stull, paraprofessional, is requesting an FML leave for October 31st, 2019 through November 19th, 2019. I ask the board to approve these leaves and resignations as presented.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Linda, can you call the vote, please?
Yes, the vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, moving forward, we have revised the 2019-2020 school calendar. Dr. Tingley?
We received guidance from ISB in June. We were told 176 student days all the way through, and then they came back and said, well, it's still 174 days if you have an all-day parent-student conference or all-day institutes, which we do. So in keeping in concert with our teacher contract, the original calendar had the students finishing on the 28th of May. The students will now finish on the 27th, and the 28th will be a teacher institute rather than final exam. So we'll do 180 total pupil attendance days, 5 of those emergency days. The students will be in session on 175 days, 4 institute days, and 1 parent-teacher conference.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the revised school calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any other question, or any questions? Please call the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, we have the multifunctional digital copier RFP. Brad?
That's a fancy way to say we have some photocopiers that we need. So currently the district has 3 contracts with 3 different vendors to provide photocopiers for the district. What you have here before you tonight is, and I'm sorry, those copiers, some of them are 5 years old, some of them are 6 years old. They are well beyond their useful life. With that being said, we did go out to RFP, because this is technology/copy. Thing isn't required by law to be bid, but good practice to get quotes. So we did that. We are recommending that we go with a district-wide single vendor. And you can see by these numbers here that we are reducing our costs by doing that. So we asked for 2 different proposals. Option A, which was a lease option, plus a service contract to maintain them, which includes toners, staples, all of that. And then we asked for an option B, which is to direct purchase them with trade-in allowance for our current equipment. And then, of course, that's still the identical service contract for toner, staples, etc. There is a cost advantage to the district by go ahead and purchasing the items. We save that lease cost, which is about 4 3/4%, which is well above our borrowing cost. And so at this point, I recommend that we go ahead and we purchase the copier, and then we enter into a service contract. If you look at then the summary recap under B, so we had Image Tech, which is a Toshiba dealer. They were actually the lowest for the equipment at 700 for the equipment, 312,000. Then we had Gordon Flesh, which is a Canon dealer. They were 340. Then we had Proven IT, which is another Canon dealer. They were at 352. We did go and look at the different machines. So we went up, we visited with Toshiba, we looked at their machines. The smaller copiers for Toshiba, they're a little more plasticky, but I think they do fine. We have a few Toshibas in the district. The problem is when we got to the production machines. Our production machines, we cranking out 26 to 27 million copies on those machines. They're thinking, oh, this production machine, they're talking like 16 million. I'm like, 16 million? Okay, we're gonna need 2 machines then, because we're gonna burn the first one up in 2.5 years. Well, anyway, it's my opinion, their production machines would not withstand the use. Then the next was Gordon Flesh. They're actually almost offering the exact machines as Proven, except for some of the smaller ones. So to make it apples to apples, you'd need to add $11,000 to their bid to bring it to true apples to apples. We've not, I'm sure Gordon Flesh is, I don't know, I'm assuming they're a decent company, but we've had Proven in 2 of our buildings for 13 years. They've done an excellent job. They've gone above and beyond to make sure that things have went. In fact, we're trying to string these copiers along, and one of them wasn't going so well, and they showed up with another machine and said, here, no problem, borrow it till, we get to that point. So they've really taken care of us. So long and short, for $11,000 difference, I would just recommend that we go ahead and go with Proven IT for across the district solution.
Before we get into questions, can I get a motion to approve the multifunctional copier bid? Second?
Second.
Any questions for Brad then?
What's the difference between paper cut and Uniflow?
Okay, so these are proprietary softwares that it's all about secure print. So we use secure print. Basically, what it means is that, and that's why we don't call them photocopiers, quite frankly, is because they're not just photocopiers, they're also computer printers, okay? So someone goes on and they click, they want to print something, that really then with secure print, it provides 2 things for us. The first thing it does for us is when the person goes over to the copy machine and puts in their ID and they see, oh, 200 pages, or no, that's probably exaggeration, but they see, oh, 12 pages. Oh wait, I thought I was only like 4 pages, you know? They can cancel it, look and see what the problem is. Oh, I didn't realize I had it still set on 3 copies, I just need 1. So it saves paper, gives the person a second chance to look. And then finally, the biggest thing that it's a benefit to us is it's follow me printing. So a teacher can be, or a staff person can be anywhere in the building. They go up to print, oh, I'm not gonna print to the smaller copier, this is a little bigger job, I'll print to the bigger copier. They select that one, they hit go. It sets certain weights for them, and then they pick it up and they just put in their code and it prints out immediately when they get there.
So you don't need a single copy to make a copy, you just print it right from your laptop.
Yeah, exactly. So it saves paper, and it also is more convenient for the staff because, you know, they can print anywhere. Like literally, I've been in this meeting where we needed something, I click on it and I go over to Linda's copier and I can pick it off and I walk in the exec session and I've got the paper with me. You know.
We've talked about going to 1-to-1. What would that do to our copiers if we did that down the road?
Actually, we've, within this RFP, we considered that. So if you'll notice, the price for that Uniflow, that is more than what we're paying now because we've asked for the expandability and license to be able to cover not only staff, but students. So students would be able to have a pen and be able to print too using the Uniflow.
Well, would that reduce our copies, or would that?
We thought it would
Well-
reduce in our district and not
Yeah.
as much as you would anticipate.
Now we're at 35 million copies a year.
Yeah, well, the difference is, there's no doubt, I think we're gonna see more copies on our bigger machines, but right now, they're printing somewhere. They might be printing on the actually higher, you know, expensive machines, because the worst thing you can print on is a desktop computer printer. That's the most expensive for us to print. So by allowing them to print on a copy machine. So it's at this bid, we are getting some bigger machines for the library to be able to accommodate student printing.
Just back to this Toshiba versus Canon. This is right, it's rated 1/8 the number of copies? So what are these rated, like, the number of copies? So we're saying it's 29 million annually.
So you got 2 things there that I'm expanding on in the memo. First is drum life, okay? Drum life does not go to the length that the machine can operate. It just goes to how frequently the machine's going to be down and going to need to be completely overhauled. I guess if I kind of put it in similar terms, it'd be like, maybe on a car, it's like your brake job. I don't know. But the bottom line is, so our production machine, a Canon production machine, will run 8 million copies before we got to pull it down for an overhaul, if you will. And they got to pull it apart, put in a new drum, and put it all back together. The Toshiba will only go 1 million. Now you got to realize we're cranking out at the beginning of the year 350 to 500,000 copies in a month. So now we're not even hardly going through startup of school, and we've got to go through a major mechanic. Now that's how often we got to replace the drum and do the overhaul. My biggest concern, and that's not, you know, that drum replacement, that's not the, I mean, you know, we do them. We do them on the Canons, we do them on the others. My biggest concern with the Toshibas is the fact that we're not going to get 26 million copies off of those production machines. You know, when I walked into their room and saw their quote production machine, I was like, okay, this is like really like one of our 95 page per minute copy machines on a little bit of turbocharge, you know. I mean, you know, it's just not beefy enough, you know. And so, and I did reference checks on them, and I'm talking to different people. I'm like, okay, how many copies are you putting on this? And they're like, oh, you know, one person was like, well, it's like 8 million. I'm like, okay. Talked to another district. They're like, oh yeah, we got, you know, 12 million in 5 years. No one's going above that amount. And so, just a big concern that yes, it's, you know, $50,000, $50-some thousand lower, but we're gonna, you know, those production machines are not, one production machine is 60, 70,000. And, you know, we've got 3 production machines you know, we had to replace all three of them, we're talking, you know, $180,000. So when you factor that in, it's not the low bid.
Who else were we using besides Proven?
Prior to Proven, or with
Well-
Proven, we were using Proven at East and Central. We were using, just draw a blank on,
This Proven was East
no, McGrath out of Joliet, and then we're using Martin Whaling for transportation and some other minor here and there that had got placed over the years.
They didn't bid.
No, they did not bid.
I did some random research with the extra time that I had on my hands, and it looks like out of all of these companies, that the only company that is certified in Pros Elite certification, did you see what that is? Like an industry standard. Only 100 companies in the country have it. There's only 1 in Illinois and 2 in Indiana. And Proven is the only company that has that certification, which is pretty good. It's a timing, they do auditing every 6 months. World-class service delivery, they figure out how long it takes for them to get on every call, how long it takes to rectify the situation, things like that, so that was good.
Thank you for that research.
Yeah. The other thing, one more thing, I did also do a little bit more research, and I found out that Proven has an advertising partnership with the Plainfield District, and that they have some advertising on their scoreboard, so I just wanted to know if maybe you could look into that maybe that could be something to piggyback off of a Phillips deal.
We'll research it.
Are there any other questions? So just to clarify, we're gonna be, the motion was for option B, not option A, which is more expensive. So, can you call the vote, please?
Yes, the vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, next up is the appoint the district treasurer for fiscal year 2020.
This is a formality as the board needs to appoint a treasurer for the district for the upcoming fiscal year. By law, historically, that person has been the CSBO. Mr. Baughman has served in this the last 2 years. The compensation has been set at $4,000 annually, and also part of his 3-year contract. So we would recommend that you accept the recommendation as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, please call the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
All right, we have the treasurer's surety bond. Did I say that right? Surety.
Brad, you can cover that one. You did the research and renewed the bond.
Yes, by law, we need to provide a bond for the treasurer, and so what this does is by law, you should provide for at least 25% of your, if you will, cash on hand. So by going to a $9 million, which is what we had last year, I believe, that would allow us to have a maximum cash on hand at any time of $35 million. And if you look through the cash flow, we'll be under that. We did get quotes from 3 different companies. Last year we paid $7,200. This year we're paying $6,300, or proposed to pay $6,300. And I would just recommend that we continue with our current carrier on that treasurer's bond.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions for
I
Brad?
have a question. I see we got 3 quotes from 3 different insurance companies. Is there a reason we need to get a couple of different brokers involved? Yeah.
No, I guess.
That's a good answer. That's a very good answer.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay. We've used the Gus before, that's been our go-to.
Mhm.
Okay, fair enough.
I did reach out to Click, that's who our current liability carrier, because I know they also do it. But they reached back to me and said, well, I see your current carrier is Liberty Mutual, and that's who we use, and that's who's the cheapest, so just might as well just stay with your guy, so.
It's not that expensive either way, I was just
Yeah,
asking.
yeah.
And a good answer.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, can you please call the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, we have the designation of depositories.
Here again, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're always gonna take a motion or want comment, I never know. So, we're going with comment. So here again, this is the end of the year, complying with everything for the next fiscal year. So by law, the board has to designate where the district will maintain their funds according to board policy and state law. So you see here the list of depositories. These are exactly the same as last year. We anticipate no change. We will stay within these depositories. And we also, according to law and board policy, 105% collateralization, either through actually pledging of securities or letter of credit through the federal government. So either way, we make sure we have collateralization or FDIC. I mean, a lot like the CDARS, that's just a FDIC insured, but we make sure we either have insurance or collateralization of 105%.
Can I have a motion to approve the designation of depositories?
So move. Second.
All right, any questions for Brad?
Just a question, so the only bank we have, or, bank, I guess, checking account that is Old Second National Bank, the rest are all investment depositories.
That is correct.
They also provide the TOS.
That's correct.
All right, any further questions? All right, hearing none, can you call the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, under informational items, we have the report of the Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting held May 28, 2019.
Thank you.
Two microphones for you.
Not too much to report. There was a new board that was reorganized, so we have a new president, vice president, and secretary. Oh, thank you. There was a new reorganization of the board, so the new president, vice president, and secretary. Next meeting is on June 25th. It was a relatively short meeting. It was the end of the year, and we should be ready to go starting next Tuesday.
Thank you. Next up is the FOIA request.
FOIA request, there's just one FOIA request. It's included in your backup materials for your review.
All right, and then we have the building and grounds report.
Once again, a very detailed report from Mr. Wilkie. If there are any questions, Rich can answer, but once again, a detailed report.
I gotta get Rich to the mic. It's been a long time.
We have a question. Very quick, Rich.
Quick question, and you'll answer it, but the sewer and water between central and east, just help me, I'm more focused, I guess, on central. And again, not a big dollar amount, just looking at the trend. 31-day month October was 9,000, May 31-day month was 12,000.
You're over here.
The sewer and water for central, October was a 31-day month, it was 9,000, 31-day month was May, and there was a $3,000 difference or a 33% increase.
I would have to look at the read dates and look at the analysis.
So it could just be a timing?
It could probably a timing issue. Matter of fact, I know that the usage at Central is down slightly year over year to date. The rate has increased.
Okay, fair enough. I just put it out there just because it jumped up, there was a 33% jump up. So. Okay, thank you.
All right, then we have the community relations report.
Once again, a bright sheet is included for your review.
All right, we now have the first reading goals for the 2019-2020 school year.
We've included in the backup materials community relations, finance, and then curriculum and instruction board goals. I'd ask the board to review those, and then between now and our meeting in August, contact me with any suggestions, changes, recommendations. In the curriculum and instruction, we'll be doing some diversity training that we will present and be discussed. Finance board goals, many of those goals are carryover from past, but there are some updates, and then also updates for community relations. so if you have any thoughts or ideas, please get those to us, as we'll be looking for adoption either the first or second meeting in August.
Thank you. Next up is the asset of the month.
Asset of the month for July is family communication. Be available whenever and wherever your kids want to talk at school, include conversations with parents as part of homework assignments, and then in the community. Sponsor discussion nights for parents and teens, publicize the topics in advance. Communication, support, love.
All right, now we have the legislative report. Anything to report?
Well, it appears that there is, well, we know there's an increase in the foundation level for funding, so we will see what that translates to is was it roughly 300 million will be put back into the different tiers. And so we'll see what that equates to in terms of additional revenue. As stated, Brad is using this year's actual for budgetary purposes, but we do anticipate an increase in state funding. We'll wait until they finish all their formulas and send that out. Governor did sign the bill to allow the 3% cap to go back to 6% cap. We're in the first year of our collective bargaining agreement with our teachers. Currently there are 4 3s, so that'll be something we will watch as time goes by. Those are the 2 significant actions in Springfield that would impact us.
Have we had any conversations with our local legislators regarding any funds that may be available with passage of the budget?
We have. As we know, we anticipate receiving $250,000 from that first wave of capital projects for our security cameras. And then I've been in discussions with the local senators and representatives as the bill is now passed. Now there are portions of monies available, so we are getting in line to see what we can get in terms of the capital bill.
Thanks.
And that probably, we won't know much until October, November, December, but as stated, we're that in line.
All right, we have the superintendent's district report.
Nothing additional to report.
And under correspondence,
We have some thank you notes for the board for the adult woodworking class that's been held at Lincoln Way.
any other district business? All right, hearing none, I will need a motion for the board to enter into closed session for, the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, collective negotiating, student disciplinary cases, student-related matters, and or meetings between internal or external auditors and audit committees, finance committees, and their equivalents. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there will be potential action after closed session.